Recently, Nature Change joined Jerry Dennis on a visit to Michael Delp's cabin on the banks of the Boardman River. Highly regarded, passionate writers, these old friends share some of their work and reverence for the rivers, lakes, and streams of northwest lower Michigan.
I'm here with my really great friend Jerry Dennis, who for years and years and years has written so well about water and living in northern Michigan. He knows probably every trout stream in Michigan. He knows every canoeing river in Michigan. And he's a really, really important voice. He's the voice of water that doesn't have a voice. I mean, he represents water, and he's out there all the time. He's in the water all the time. So he has a voice that's authentic, and it resonates with people because he literally knows what he's talking about. He's not making this stuff up.
For about 15 years, I've been trying to understand what we mean by the sense of place, and especially what we mean by the place that we are in right now, northern Michigan within the Great Lakes region. And Mike mentioned earlier the prologue to the Windward Shore. And that may be the only time I ever come close to expressing a little about that complexity and the meaning of it to me. So I'll just read a portion of it. These 5 astonishing seas of fresh water that once were as secure as money in the bank remain our epicenter, our capital, our strength, and our delight, but are no longer secure. This land that is as sprawling and messy, gorgeous and ugly, dynamic, diverse, complex, perplexing, heartening, and heartbreaking as the 2 nations that encircle it. This is my home. It is not an easy place to know, nor is any place. Many explorers of the near at hand have discovered that one lifetime isn't enough to learn a country, a town, even a backyard. Walk a trail a dozen times and you remain a stranger to it. 100 times and you might earn a nodding acquaintance. Walk it in snow, in rain, alone, and in company with kids and dogs and friends, under a full moon and a new moon, in the fog, in a blizzard, with your eyes shut and your feet seeking the way by touch, and maybe you'll become familiar enough to call it by name. But do you know it? When children memorize a song or a poem, they say they have learned it by heart. I'm trying to learn this land, my home, by heart, but I don't know if my heart is big enough. And I don't know if I'm writing a love song or a lament. Both probably, both and more, for a complex subject requires a complex song.
That gets exactly at the heart of what's so important about your work to me, is that you understand that the information that you get comes in through your 5 senses. It's not digital, it's not on the internet, it's about getting wet and getting cold and getting hot and getting hungry and getting thirsty and literally getting it all through your feet.
I've looked up to you since long before we met in the early 90s. I saw in your work a kindred spirit and someone I really wanted to get to know, because I felt that you understood northern Michigan in a way that few people I knew did, and that I could learn from you as an outdoors person, as a writer, as a human being. So I was thrilled when I finally met with you, and we saw right away, this is true, we are kindred spirits. When I think of your work, I think of Roberto Bolaño, his comment, there's a time for poetry and a time for fists. And I admire that about you. You're not afraid to throw down the gloves and get tangled up in there.
The great irony in what you read is it was thought it would be money in the bank. Well, a lot of guys see the Great Lakes as bank. They see it as money. Export it, bring tankers in from, Arizona, and suck up water out of the Great Lakes and take it to Arizona at midnight. So this is called the Mad Angler's Restitution. Already the swamps have dried up. Each day becomes more like a desert than some flowing heart. He swears off rivers, begins the slow process of unlearning the bends he loves, loses track of his favorite runs and pools where he has cashed in his precious time. The rods go up in flames, the sweet smell of bamboo mixing with resin, the dust and blood of boyhood creoles. He speaks into an overcast sky, asking what it will take to make up for all the times he thought he knew what he was doing. The arrogance of admiring perfect casts, forgetting to slip brook trout easily back into the river's seams, how his body and mind bent to the shape of each day on the water. All of it taken for granted, his laughter under dark cedars, sweet cigars, his beating heart, even the moon.